There's a word that has been making itself heard a lot in recent months. If you watch the news, if you talk to your friends, it is a word that keeps expressing itself and in some ways deepening. And the word is unprecedented. Everywhere I go, that's the word that sort of tries to describe the times we're in or the moment we're living, that we have found ourselves somewhere deeply unfamiliar, without anything quite like it having happened before. Certainly this is a big part of the political spectrum. It's also, for those of us living in San Rafael or the Marin County area, or all over the Bay Area right now, we're having weather temperatures that are unprecedented. We've had storms in Houston, unprecedented. I think you probably could find lots and lots of opportunities yourselves to use that word. What it really means is that the norm is no longer the norm, that things have really truly shifted. Somehow we have entered into a time where what was familiar, what was comfortable, what was known, what was predictable is no longer the case. And there's a certain kind of negative element attached to that, something that goes, ooh, if only it was predictable, if only it was back in familiar space, if only we could have it the way it was, life would be more satisfying, predictable, knowable. On the other hand, that's not what it is. Everything is shifting. Everything. Now, it's shifting for us in this time frame. There are people over the course of the millions of years that there have been human beings, probably the same with animals and trees and insects and birds and everything else. Over the course of time, they have gone through periods where nothing was what it was. Things just changed. Sometime, I don't know how many tens of thousands of years ago, there was a 10-year period and the world went into an ice age over a decade of time, 1 decade. Trees couldn't warm up. Birds didn't know where to go. Insects were going, what? Everything changed. It keeps happening. The unpredictable, the unknowable, the unbelievable keeps happening in history. You know, this is not the first time, however, we have had unpredictable leaders governing a country. The New York Times published an article a couple of weeks ago about Caligula in Rome. You know, it was not a lot different than what we're seeing, you know, and Nero, and, you know, these guys were megalomaniacal characters and they ran the world. It didn't last long, but it had a big impact. There's a downside to the unpredictable, to the unprecedented, and there's an upside. The downside is we as human beings thrive on that which is stable, known, comfortable, predictable. We kind of want that. It helps us get through the day, it gets us through the year. Every year we'll have Thanksgiving, every year there will be Christmas, every year there will be, you know, so many birthdays and holidays and summer vacation and snow and then you know, summer and all those things that keep going in order, and we like that. It helps us plan, helps us think of the future in a way that actually we can almost envision, and that's comforting. Here's the downside. it never really is predictable. It never really is precedented. It simply is patterns. Some patterns are easily repeated and then change dramatically. Some patterns are long-term, some are short-term. But the essential teaching of what we're here to learn is it is basically endlessly changeable. And wanting to hold on to the predictable, somewhat unchangeable continuity of things is absolutely understandable. But when that gets blown up, as it does, we are all forced to look at life from a new perspective. The impermanent nature of life is probably, on one level, its least attractive aspect. On another level, it keeps us on our toes. It wakes you up daily to, this is unprecedented. It's 108 degrees, or it was 110 degrees here, according to the NBC News last night. 110 degrees here. We have no air conditioning because it's unprecedented. This house we were told there are 4 days a year that are really hot, and now it's a whole summer that's really hot. And so we go, wow, we have to think of the precedent as having been completely altered. But we're getting a picture, a very strange picture, of a change that may not be gradual at all, but may in fact be very fundamentally altering of the human experience. A change that is so powerful that half of our culture denies that it's even there, this whole climate change idea. And then those of us who are sitting in 110 degrees with no air conditioning go, well, you know, what does one do about this? What does one do in a culture or a civilization where poverty prevails, which is not our culture particularly, but there are places in the Mideast where the temperatures are going to go to 130 and more at some point, and people are going to be in real distress. The world is going to be in distress at some point. This is not the first time that has happened. It is not truly unprecedented, but for us, it is unprecedented. Things happen, random things happen in life that would not be expected, but they happen. So, what do we do in terms of wanting to hold on to a predictability, a comfort, a simplicity, a known in our lives, when it's being ripped away on some very, very massive scale, where everyone is looking around going, what is this? What is this? What's going on? Everybody. The great thing about that is it is awakening people to this moment, this very moment, which is so unlike any moment you've had before. It has certain continuities. One of them is that you're breathing. You know, sun came up and is going to go down. You have waking moments and sleeping moments. You still eat. You still bathe. All that stuff's still kind of in play at the moment. But it definitely is impacting our day-to-day choices, our day-to-day sense of who we are, our sense of the world we're in, our sense of future projection. You know, it is very discomforting. So, what to do? And the answer for me, which is an answer that every one of you knows is going to come because I give it week by week, is what is the unchangeable? What is the thing that is endlessly, unprecedentedly itself? What is the ongoing, singular truth of our being? It's not something approachable in your mind. It's not approachable even in your gut. There's something that comes out of getting very quiet admitting in a profound way your helplessness in the magnitude of transformation and unprecedentedness around you, and getting very quiet and just withdrawing into a still point inside yourself, sitting down and going, it is shocking what happens when you do that. You're not brought back to any kind of intellectual clarity. You're not brought back into something that helps you understand how to respond to things, or what to do, or how this is going to unfold, or where it's going to go, or what the history and the drama is around us. It brings you back to and if you ask me to say what that is, I can't say it. I can only say, in some sense, breath, but more importantly, try it. Try it. Breathe. My experience, which is my experience, is that when I exhale from that intake of air, which is very constructive, to the exhalation, which is very deconstructing, I get emptied out. I find a quietude, a simplicity, a common, endlessly repetitive part of what my life is, which is breath, and something that may have come because of my heart chakra opening over time. But what I get is something so profoundly, I will call it maternal, with the inhalation being very paternal, creative, expansive, dynamic. Forgive me if this is offending people, and the external being releasing, freeing, emptying, and very embracing. And it is so calming, simple, comforting, joyful, loving, that there's a part of me that kind of almost wants to just exhale and forget the inhalation part. And in a certain sense, my meditative practice, or my spiritual, if you want to call it, practice, or my daily walking practice, is breathing. And the exhalation releases me over and over into a still point that is an announcement on an extraordinary level that all is well with the world, that all is well with you. No matter how crazy it gets, even if it's your last moment in extremity, that exhalation will bring you back to the enfolding truth of being that has always been there. It is a loving, giving, comforting, allowing force that you have access to every minute. Every minute. Rudy always said, because you can't always sit down and do a big breathing exercise during the day, when things get tough, or you get distracted, or you get disturbed, or you get thrown into the unprecedented, take a breath. Breathe. And the joy, if you can connect with it, meaning you're not so in your mind that the minute you exhale, you're back into the unprecedented fears and worries, but you just enter into that which has always been, the breath. And where the breath leads, where does it go? Any of you who've been around people who've died, while they're dying, start to see something really powerful, which is the inhalation, the constructive, creative inhalation gets shorter and shorter, and the exhalation gets longer and longer and longer and longer. And my supposition is, as it goes out further and further, There's something there waiting, that thing you experience in your day-to-day life that takes you in. It just takes you in. And we have had a lifetime of fear, mostly, of just completely giving ourselves over to that inward-taking nature. But in the moment of death, you are finally going to do something you have not done over the course of your entire life, which is stop inhaling. You will finally give yourself over to that thing which has announced itself day by day, thousands of times a day, as this loving, taking in, emptying out force of your own breath. And you will find that as you practice this daily, you get to a point where you trust exhalation, you trust the relaxation, you trust the letting go, you trust the giving over. And then the inhalation is natural, the body does it, it brings you back into force, into construction, into manifested form, and then it goes unmanifested and it exhales and goes out. Preparing for that last moment of letting go and going into the exhalation completely, is sort of what we're training to do. Letting go. And it's fearsome. But don't ask why. It's unprecedented. It's the most unprecedented thing of our life, letting ourselves go out entirely and not return. And it takes a kind of courage or ultimate weakness or biological lack of choice. But in the end, that is what does take place. You end up returning to this place that, if you are lucky enough to have learned, is a still point of absolute beauty and love. If you can give yourself over to that, you will find that day-to-day practice allows you to reach out to that final moment of release. My grandson Elijah was in the pool the other day. He's terrified of water. And he goes on the first step, the second step, and now he's gone on the third step. And that's as far down as he goes. Then there's one more step to the bottom of the pool. And he just can't get himself to go to the bottom step until the other day. And I was watching him, and I could see his mind working. I could just see it. And it was not a huge drama, but it was something that was going, I can do this. I can do this. It was really quiet, and it was so beautiful. And all of a sudden, he just stepped into the bottom of the pool and realized it wasn't over his head. He was still up to here. And he was like, and I saw him do it, and I went, wow, Elijah, that was so brave. That was so courageous. I don't know how you did that, but that was beautiful. And look, you're still touching bottom. You're still breathing. You're still here. It was beautiful. He was so proud. He was so filled with, I can do this. And no, he's not ready to float. He's not ready to let go of the side of the pool. But I could see it's about to happen. Because, one, he was reinforced, and how beautiful it was to take that step. But also because it is about one step. It's always about one step for all of us. It's not about throwing yourself off the bungee board. It's like one step. Sometimes it has huge implications and repercussions, and sometimes it just, you touch bottom and you go, oh, I can do this. My guess is the last step we all will take will be finally saying yes to that exhalation. Yes to that absorption in something that, if you're lucky, you have learned through practice and sitting and stillness and opening and loving the experience of breath, that you can just go, yes. It'll be like stepping off that step. It will take that much courage, but it will be completely liberating, in a way applauded, if you will, and you will go, I did it, I did it. The cure for unprecedented times is to get into the present tense, to get into that which really isn't unprecedented, which is the simple experience of breathing. Breathing brings you into what you've done from the very second you entered this world. And then, then it came out with all that terror. But you did let it out, and it was a big exhalation, and you've been doing that ever since. The journey is learning how to I've been walking a lot, and they're not really meditations for me usually. They're just walking, and I'm looking and seeing and taking photographs and stopping for a minute to appreciate and thinking and having they're wonderful, wonderful, biologically dynamic experiences. But in the last few days, I just started doing this thing where I keep my hat on, I keep the brow down. What's that called?
Breathe.
Yeah, what?
Breathe.
Everybody's got a new name for it. Whatever it is, I keep it down, and I'm just looking at the sidewalk, or it's actually, the terrain changes a lot to rock and stone and dust and pavement, but I just walk, and all I do for an hour and a half is breathe. I guess you would call it walking meditation. It has a different quality when you're walking uphill than walking downhill, when it's really a high climb as opposed to an average kind of climb or flat. It's always different. It demands something different, but it is constant. And I share this with you because it's probably the most obvious thing in the world, and maybe all of you already do it. But every exhalation I get fills me with something so joyous, beautiful, worth being born for, that it is almost inexplicable. And what's hard to get to is I've walked for years without just breathing. I've walked for years doing all the stuff you do when you walk, but just breathing proved to be revelational. It was like meditating, walking. And Thich Nhat Hanh teaches that. I think there are lots of people who teach walking meditation. But walking meditation isn't walking and thinking and looking around and just walking. It's take a breath and exhale and watch what you feel. It's taken me years and really working on my heart chakra to get to the point that every exhalation is, it's like giving a kiss to the most beautiful person you know. Hugging the most wonderful person you know. It's love, making love to the life around you, to the world around you. It's so everything you're looking for. And it's so simple. So we live in unprecedented times. Things are shifting. Things are not the same. They will not be the same. Life is going to get tougher for us on some level, either slowly and incrementally or very quickly. Some people will deny all this. Some people will enter into it. Some people will try to change the world externally. Some people will try to just figure out, how do I get by? Whatever your response to all of this, whatever you choose to do in terms of your relationship to unprecedented times, don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. Go for a walk, meditate, do your daily meditation. Sitting meditation is very valuable. Walking meditation, you just get, what's it called? Multitasking. You get to multitask, but you still get your meditation in. One way or another, sit, stand, walk, whatever. Take your breath. Open your heart, open your navel, open your centers to the universe. Feel them expand, feel them contract, feel them alive, feel them relaxing. Feel the joy of being fully connected to yourself and live that world. The unprecedented will no longer be threatening. It will just be part of what is. And finding what is the goal. So, good luck. Any questions?
I have a question not about this talk, but one that you gave in Big Indian, and you said that a person starts their spiritual life when they're a whole person. Can you describe what a whole person is?
It's Rudy's line, to be honest.
Okay.
And his idea was that getting all of your energy centers, chakras as they're known, open and vibrant and conscious, meaning you can literally feel them opening as opposed to imagining, that you feel what it means to have a heart, what it means to experience love, what it means to feel the flow of articulated speech and communication with another, what it means to have a mind that actually is open to the world and not myopic, what it means to have a gut that's open to the intuitive and to the empowerment of constructing worlds, what it means to have a renewable energy source at the base of your, well, at your in your sex organ, and then to have this powerful uniting energy, this energy that moves through all the chakras. It's based on the base of your spine, called Kundalini. When it starts moving through these centers, it aligns them, connects them, and creates what Rudy says is an integrated person, someone in whose mind works with their heart, whose speech is connected to their mind, that their power base works in conjunction with things they know and understand, that all of this stuff is functioning, and you become what Rudy said was a whole person, someone who's working, who's functioning, with completeness. My experience sitting with you, sitting with all these people, is I look at your chakras, it's kind of the diagnostic, and I go, that mind is really tight. It's really very small, it's very wound up, it's not expanded, it's not breathing, it's not seeing the world really clearly. Or I see hearts that are really tentative, maybe I will like you if you kind of like me for a moment, I'll try, but they're not really functioning. People who are very out of touch with their navel chakras, who really can't get down to the empowerment. And I call this chakra, wanting things because it's intellectual. This is emotional wishing. But the navel chakra is the need, and getting need into play. And in my introductory talk, I explained to people, this is, I want to go to the gym. I wish I could go to the gym. And the navel chakra is, I need to go to the gym. When you get to need, you go to the gym. And you start to work out, and you start to build a life, and you become, all these things start to work together. When you become a whole person, you become available to the universe, if you will, to be used effectively. In other words, the cracks and the leaks in the system are all plugged up, and you don't leak out through your brain, you don't leak out through your heart. You're whole. You're a complete being, and that complete being can be of enormous service, should it want to be, to the universe. And the universe looks for people it can invest in, if you will, bring all of their energies to those in whom they are deeply and well proud. Becoming someone the universe can be proud of is a great thing, and then they can really put you to work, doing whatever you're supposed to be doing, and you'll sort of know that. Either they will tell you, or you'll intuit it, because you're aligned with all of this. And this chakra, the uppermost chakra, is what connects you to infinite wisdom, if you will, acknowledgement, cosmos, God consciousness, higher consciousness. It all aligns, and you really feel yourself in contact with purpose, directivity, a navigational system. I talk mostly about navigational systems in the heart chakra, but there's another one up here that's superior on some level to the heart chakra navigational system, and it is really serving universal purpose, not just worldly individual purpose. It's really powerful, and that's what we're all working toward. And at some point, when you're really in alignment and all these chakras are open, something, hard to say what it is, identity, the sense of the person you are, the ego structure that has built all this, falls away, and you are now not only a whole person, but you are unseparated, undivided from everything there is. The walls come down, and you just become what this is, whatever this is, and no longer definable. The mind can no longer take it in, because the mind is all of that. It's not graspable, knowable, or in any way definable in human terms, but you have become or recognized that you already are that. But you can't do that until you're whole. The thing can't open to its fullness as long as it's incomplete and cracked and not functioning properly, or completely absorbed in the fact that your mother didn't love you, or the fact that you have dreams that weren't satisfied, or whatever that crap is that keeps people from being whole and satisfied and fundamentally real. As long as that's going on, you're left in you're useless to the universe. Not really useless, because they'll get you to take out the garbage, and bake dinner and do the stuff that needs to get done. But in terms of really serving the world, which means what? Loving people, kind, compassionate interaction with others, becoming a non-karma producing entity, someone who just functions for thy will be done rather than your personal private goals. That's an amazing thing. And that's what Rudy was talking about. You become a whole person as the beginning of your spiritual unfolding, not as the goal. Just the beginning. And we're all working at that until this thing falls away, and then you really do see, oh, this is the beginning. This is not the end. There is no end. And even the beginning is like, it's infinite. It's truly infinite. And you'd go, what do I do with that? Nothing. You're it. Be it. And it will tell you what to do. It really tells you, day by day by day by day. It just tells you. And you don't even, there's not even a you and an it responding. It's just, you're it. You're it. Period.
Well, what you just said about a whole person sounds like what I have heard about enlightenment. Is that the same thing then?
Kind of. I'll tell you what enlightenment is. It's letting go of the burden of being you. And not until you're a whole person can you really let go of you. As long as you're hanging on to the crap, as long as you're hanging on to the disappointments, as long as you're hanging on to the drama of what you might become if you only had this or if that could happen, as long as all that's still in play, you're lost. You're burdened by you. When you let go of all that, stuff will happen or not happen, but you won't have a big identity investment in it. It'll just be okay. And when you get ready to do that last breath thing, what else is there in life other than learning to completely biologically, physically give yourself over to that thing which right now is sustaining and breathing you? It's so hard to talk about it because it's so beyond the normal human day-to-day drama. Rudy knew he was talking to people who didn't get it, really. I mean, most spiritual teachers are talking to people who don't really get it. It's all processing through the mind, and I'll take that piece, and I'll take that piece, and yeah, I like that, not that, forget that. Everybody's trying to build something that's comfortable and easy, but it doesn't work like that. What you end up becoming is what you already are, and the spiritual life and the spiritual path is really the getting rid of all the illusions of what you are and becoming liberated from, enlightened from the burden of you. That's the journey. And then it's a different dialogue. I don't have a lot of people I can talk about the unfolding thing. I have a few people, thank God, and we do talk about this, and it's very refined and very minute on some level, but mostly what we all talk about is there's no way to know anything. And the joy of that, shocking joy in knowing that you're helpless and meaningless on some level, and yet you are the totality of all that ever will be. Put that together.
So Rudy was a whole person?
I can't comment. He certainly he seemed pretty whole to me.
Okay.
it's very hard to judge who's a whole person. People walk around saying they are, and you'll go, okay. You know, and maybe they say the right things some of the times, and they do things that you go, really? What's that about? It's hard to figure it out for yourself. Are you, I mean, in the end, you don't know you're a whole person intellectually so much. You just start seeing how it's operating and flowing, and you go, Like I go, Bruce would never have known that. Bruce would never have done that. I hear stuff being spoken, and I go, oh, that's pretty intelligent sometimes. And I know it's not, and you know, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, to two parents who had no clue to anything. I had no clue to anything. And then the universe brought me these moments that I said yes to. That's the thing I don't get. How did I, this kid from nowhere, you know, with no particular skills or talents, said yes to some very challenging events, like taking a drug that will blow your brain into oblivion? You know, why did I do that? Who was this, whatever, 18-year-old kid who did that? I'm really grateful to him, because I don't know that person. I don't know how he ever had the courage to go off to India and hitchhike around the world when he was scared to drive downtown. You know, what is it? I don't understand it. But this thing keeps happening, and it keeps falling away. The universe said, tell people what you saw. I've been trying to do that. It keeps opening doors. It keeps saying, but we're not just going to open them. You have to have the faith, and you have to have you have to make leaps of faith to get the right to do what we're offering you. And then they threw all these obstacles in front of me that I had to jump through, or I had to marry a woman who was willing to lead me or help me through these things. It's amazing. It is the journey of becoming a person is, as everyone here knows, not easy. It's not easy. On the other hand, it's the best thing there is. And the whole person has a little bit of the person you were in it, and a lot of everything else, including everyone else. And you really do open to that, and you really do discover the incredible connectivity of being. You know, it's harder and harder to talk about on some level, because there's nothing I can say that really kind of fully makes sense. It's just that who you are is ultimately everything I'm talking about. Who you are is no different than what I am. It's no different. None of you. I look at you and I go, why don't you know this? What's standing in the way between what I know and you know? And I can start to see it. I look in your eyes and I go, oh, there's like a blank spot right in the left quadrant of a forehead. And I go, what is that? I don't really know. I see it. I don't know why I see it. And then something directs me into it, and I go deep into it, and I see, oh, and it's almost like a little girl hiding in a closet or something, and the door is locked and they can't get out. And so I open the door. I pull out, and that person now suddenly is able, should they want to walk out of that door and begin the journey that they locked themselves into however many years or lifetimes ago. And if we do that for each other, if we keep loving each other enough, are compassionate enough, attentive enough, giving enough, allowing enough, each one of us will start to unfold this closed, fearful nature, and will free themselves of themselves and arrive at whole person, enlightened, awake to something that is not comprehensible, but you have been working your whole life to arrive there. And that's what we're doing. And each one of you sitting in this room, God bless you, has said, I want this. Enough to come here, you know, and you know, there's certain places you can go on the planet where they will offer you this possibility. But, you know, some will say it's only going to cost you $2,000 for this first step, and $8,000 for the next step, and $100,000 for the third step. And you go, what? I go, what? This is free. This is free. This costs nothing. This is just being with people long enough until they can start to get, oh, that's what he's saying. And it also comes down to $100,000 for that? Crazy, crazy. But it really is, it's about liberation, and freedom from the stupidity of one's own lack of knowledge, one's own fear of stepping off that last step. Whatever the things are that people have in their lives that prevent them from really letting it happen is this very stuff that needs to be worked on day by day, and meditation will take one little brick at a time and remove it, a little bit at a time, until finally you're just done. And then you begin. Then you're whole. The things that keep you from being whole are the things that separate you in your mind from everybody. You're not separate from anyone. You're not better than or worse than anyone. You're just one of the multitudes. That's all we are. We're nothing and everything. Am I even getting close? I don't.
Yeah, thank you. No,
Oh,
but well, when you
okay.
said you don't start your spiritual life till you're a whole person, so now when you say that, I go, well, I think our life is, all of us are conscious of being spiritual or being, so we still have a spiritual life, even though we might not recognize that we're whole.
Yes, right. No. And also, I mean, one of the great realizations, other than the fact that we all know there are parts of us that are just not functioning well. The real awakening moment is you've always been whole.
Yeah.
You've always been whole, imperfect, but whole. Can you fix those imperfections? Yeah. Does it matter? Maybe, but you are already whole. You could never be anything but whole, ever. I mean, more whole than you can imagine, even with your imperfections. And then what happens is you just embrace those imperfections. You go, okay, I'm scared of this and love that and attached to this and not that. And you go, that's the I am. And once you do that, you just live your life as you are. Okay? Okay. I'll see you guys again sometime.